Are you an HVAC professional looking to set your business apart? Then the Leading HVAC Podcast is your go-to resource. I'm Kymone Hines, coach and trainer at SVE. And in this podcast, we'll share stories of success and struggle from leaders in the HVAC industry. You'll hear from experienced executives, managers, and innovators, providing you with the hard-earned insights from their journeys. These insights will equip you with the knowledge you need to navigate challenges and truly lead in the ever-evolving HVAC world. Welcome back to the Leading HVAC Podcast. I'm your host, Kymone Hines. I'm super excited to have today as our guest, Ismael Valdez with Nuve. But before I get to introduce and talk to Ismael, I want to just remind you, if you're not subscribed to this podcast, go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on a podcasting platform of your choice, subscribe so that you don't miss any of these great interviews that we are doing. All right, Nuve is a company that I have really been intrigued with, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to talk with you today, Ismael. Please, first of all, tell us your role in this company and tell us a little bit about Nuve.
So Nuve is a product that we brought up to the market about 7-8 months ago. It's a thermostat company that I came up with about 3 years ago. I tested out the actual thermostat for about 2.5 years in one of the companies that I used to own called NextGen Air Conditioning here in Southern California. It was the biggest air conditioning and plumbing company here in California at one point. I was testing it out for about 2.5 years before I rolled it out to our contractors. But basically what it is it's a software platform and a thermostat where contractors could communicate via their app or via their thermostat to homeowners. So it's one more way. It's probably one of the most efficient ways to be able to communicate with homeowners instead of your typical sources, which is direct mail, email, or ringless voicemail, or all those antiquated sources that most homeowners don't even look at anymore. So it's a thermostat disguised. It's a marketing source disguised as a thermostat for most people.
Yeah. So Ismael, you mentioned you tested this out with NextGen. Before we get into as much as I want, because I want to get those who are watching this, those who are listening to this, to understand how this can help and really some of the leadership lessons from what you did. But tell us about the results that you saw with NextGen when you started using Nuve.
So I'll start out at the beginning of the project. So the project was about 3 years ago when I started it. I started looking into the alarm company model and the way they operated, and I started really digging into like how they were able to retain their customer base at such high percentage. Just to give you a fun statistic, Alarm.com, what else? ADT, Bell Alarms, all those guys are retaining their customers at a 94.2% rate. Meaning for every 100 customers that they touch, 94 to 95 of them will reuse them over and over for two reasons, okay? And two reasons only. There's a subscription model behind it where obviously they're taking care of your house, so they make sure that there's no theft going on. But the second thing was the panels that they use to be able to arm your house and disarm your house, and the app that they're using was all configured back to ADT and back to all these alarm companies, right? So I don't know if you guys ever been to your alarm panels, but at the top right hand corner it has an ADT logo on it. Okay, if you cover up that logo, you're back on square one. If something happens to your alarm company, you don't know where to go. You would have to go on Google, you would have to go on Yelp, you would have to go on social media, and you would have to, look for a alarm company provider. Well, the reason why they're retaining clients at such a high pace is because that logo, if you click on it, it gives you the dealer information. Meaning, if anything goes wrong, you just click on that logo, call that number and say, hey, my sensor's not working on my door or my panel's glitching, and you get somebody to go out there. You don't have to go on Google. You don't have to go on Yelp. You don't have to go on online searching for a provider. And that was the idea behind Nuve and why we've been, pressing on the contractors to get on, because essentially we're trying to un-Googleize the industry. So I brought the idea from the alarm company. 3 years ago, I started the project. I tested it out in hundreds of thousands of units at my old company that I used to own called NextGen Air Conditioning, where we tested it out for about 2.5 years before we rolled it out to the public. We just rolled it out about 7 months ago. to contractors all over the United States. We are in 48 different states already. We got a little bit over 400 different dealers that are using our thermostat. And just to clarify, the thermostat is a white label thermostat. So the homeowner never knows it's a Nuve thermostat. The consumer never knows it's a Nuve thermostat. We don't put pricing online. We never advertise to the consumer. Our business is directly to the contractors. Look, I'm a contractor at heart. I've been an operator for about 15 years of my life. I've grown two different businesses. I've sold two different businesses to private equity, and now this is my new venture that I'm trying to help our contractors on, which is making sure that they're able to retain clients at that rate. Because look, us contractors, whether we want to admit it or not, we have probably one of the track records of retaining customers. And why I say that is because plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, we're always chasing new leads, always chasing new leads, always chasing new customers, always spending more money on Google, always spending more money on social media, on direct mail, on billboards, on TV, on radio. We're always chasing more. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we're doing as contractors. Instead of focusing on the retainment part of it, right? And instead of focusing on the retainment part of it, we're always focusing on new customer acquisition. And that's why, most of our businesses are running, 8 to 12% of revenue spend gets spent to your marketing, right? ADT spends 1.1% in marketing because they're able to retain so many clients, right? And that's the new model that these contractors got to get used to it, because whether contractors want to see it or not, there's a new technology wave getting into our industry, right? There's a new SaaS. There's new technology getting injected every single day into our industry, and this is one of the biggest changes that's going to happen. We're going to go from a membership model into a subscription model, right? A subscription model, meaning we're going to monitor the AC from your office. We're going to monitor all the thermostats, making sure that they're running properly from your office, instead of always sending a technician to the house to quote unquote fix things, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now, Ishmael, this is such a good point right here. You mentioned 15 years in the home service industry.
Yes, sir.
Take me back a little bit. How did you get into the industry? How did you even get started in this part of this industry?
So I was 17 years old, coming right out of high school. I wanted to go to college really, really badly. That's my dad wanted me to do it. My stepmom wanted me to do it. Like everybody wanted me to do it. I was, I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant, but I was a really bright kid from throughout my whole high school. I carried a 4.0 GPA. All of my high school, my junior high school was straight A's. Elementary I was top student in every class. So I was getting pushed to go to college, and I was getting scouted by different colleges all over California, all over the United States. People were flying in to talk to my parents just to get me into the colleges. But I had an opportunity to go and work at a company called Howard Industry, which is a supply house for contractors. Supply house meaning they would go pick up equipment, material, parts, everything that they need for the job, for consumers to get their air conditioning done. So I worked there for about 7 years. I ended up liking that job so much. I was only going to do it for a year, but I ended up doing 7 years of a distributor. So I was catering to contractors every day, talking to contractors every day. When, I kind of, I run a curious mind where I'm always asking questions to these contractors. I got to, interact with $1 million shops, $2 million shops, 5 million, 10 million, $50 million shops that would go and purchase equipment and material with us. And I started noticing that there was a lot of opportunity in the home service space. And there was also a ton of money to be made, man. And that's what intrigued me the most. And, I was there for 7 years, building relationships, learning, asking a million questions, just trying to get the fundamentals of air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical. So I kind of put the college thing behind me and did 7 years in there, man. And then, after that, I started my first company called Home Comfort USA. Home Comfort USA, I was partner with this guy named Ken Starr. Me and him started with 2 employees, and we grew it all the way to 160 employees in a 4-year span. Got it up to $22 million in revenue in 4 years. Was probably one of the fastest growing HVAC electrical plumbing companies in the nation. Right after that, we had a disagreement like around 2016, 2017, around there. We had a disagreement, we parted ways, and I went and I started NextGen Air Conditioning. NextGen Air Conditioning was look, I never knew it was going to be a 7-year project for me. I enjoyed contracting so much, and I enjoyed the everyday operation so much that I thought I was going to be, the rest of my life career. But in 2021, 2022, 2023, private equity came knocking in everybody's door, right? And started, asking questions, how long you've been in business, what kind of company you are. And once I told them that we grew NextGen Air Conditioning from, 0 employees all the way to almost 600 employees in a 7-year span, they were blown away with what happened at NextGen. To me, I was just grinding. I was just doing my everyday, hiring and marketing and trying to get revenue on the board and trying to keep my people busy and trying to keep my installers busy. So I was doing the everyday, trench work. And so I didn't think anything of it until private equity started coming in and just saying, like, holy crap, like, do you know how much your business is worth? And, I thought for a minute they were, playing around, because I told them, you guys realize we're plumbers, right? We're air conditioning techs. Like, we're not a SaaS company, or we're not Facebook here, right? And they were blown away, man. Luckily, I did everything right from the get go. I did my financial straight. I hired the right people. I hired really, really smart people. I had a really, really sales driven team. We
Hmm.
got the revenue, and I think year 7 of NextGen startup, we did $108 million in revenue.
Wow.
In 2022, I think that was our peaks, and they made me offers I couldn't refuse. So we went through quality of earnings, did quality of earnings for about 4 months, came back with our quality of earnings, and they put a value on our business that we're past $100 million, and it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So sold the NextGen Air Conditioning to private equity. This private equity called Wrench Group out of Atlanta, Georgia. I know that when we put the business up for sale, I think we had like over 160 NDA signed, or people that were trying to buy the business. So, I sold it to Wrench Group. And after that, I stayed along. I stayed there for about a year before I started. I was still testing Nuve. I was still installing Nuve. I was still like trying to get the prototypes up and running. And in 2024, late 2024, last year, I launched the product. I started putting in orders for 10, 20, 30,000 units, and we started getting them Q4 of last year. Q4
Hmm.
last year, we started, distributing throughout the whole United States. Now we're, one of the fastest tech companies in the United States. So it's pretty cool, man. So it's been a cool journey.
Yeah, this is definitely a cool journey. The growth of next gen, the shift now Nuve. You've seen a lot of changes, I'm sure, in the HVAC industry. What are some of maybe give me one or two major changes you've seen over the years that are affecting leaders in the HVAC world?
One of the biggest changes that we had in the air conditioning business, and it was a good change, was service sign coming into our industry. Service sign came into our industry probably about 10 years ago, and they didn't really get the software side of it really nailed down to about the last 3 to 4 years. Prior to that, we were running on Successware and all these antiquated software companies, dispatching software, CRMs. So service sign was probably one of the biggest changes that came into our industry and just united most of the contractors that were across the United States. And it also gave a lot of structure to what we're doing now. I'm a huge advocate of service sign. I've been, my buddy R and Vahe were the ones that started that company. From day one, all my companies have been on service sign, but that was probably one of the biggest shift changes in technology, right?
Hmm.
In technology. Now that era is kind of taken off, this new AI era is coming into our industry. Look, nobody knows what it's going to do to our industry. For sure, it's going to benefit our contractors. I'm a huge believer in technology. I'm a huge believer in the possibilities that we can do as human beings, and how we push each other. So I think AI is going to be a huge change for our
Absolutely.
industry. I think in the next 3 years, you're going to see companies running at 30, 35, 40, 50% EBITDA, right? Which is across the world. Most traditional contractors here are running around, a really, really polished contractor that's been in business, that has good structure, that, knows how to provide a world-class experience, is running between 18 to 20% EBITDA. So for AI to come in here and almost double the earnings for these contractors is going to be amazing. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. There's a ton of new products coming into our industry, and there's a ton of technology that contractors are going to be able to benefit from, and that's the most exciting part for me, man.
Absolutely. Now, Ishmael, you've talked about the changes, but I'm sure there's some things that are constant in terms of what it takes to be a leader.
Yep.
From from your role with NextGen, from your role working for someone else, and now in this shift, still in the home service industry, I'll say, but now
Yep.
you're solving a specific problem through Nuve. What are some qualities that good leaders need to have in this industry?
Relentless, dude. The one quality that is never gonna go out of style per se is gonna be the relentlessness to see each other win, right? The unselfishness to push each other and to really see others grow. Look, the one thing that I've done well, and you know, I don't want to sound arrogant again, but the one thing that I've done well in every single sector, whether it was Home Comfort, whether it was NextGen, whether it was Nuve, is me knowing that where my role is, right, as an operator, to build the strongest, fastest team and the most competitive. Look, listen to what I just said. The most
Mhm.
competitive team, because competition will always bring out the best in us. And that is one quality that us contractors forget sometimes, because we're so stuck in the trenches and we're so stuck on paying bills and meeting vendors and doing all the things that we do as operators, that we forget that building a competitive team is never going to go out of style. Building a competitive team where everybody has the same goal and same direction, where everybody benefits from each other's relationship, where everybody wins as a group. Building that is your single most important thing as an operator, as a CEO, as an owner of a company, is making sure that you build a team where each team member has a different quality that pushes each other to be able to operate at a high level.
Yeah. Now, I guess I would ask the how, because this is a leadership podcast. How do I kind of build that kind of team?
Easy,
Because
easy.
Ishmael, I'm struggling to find workers. I'm just talking as one of our, struggling to find good workers, struggling to find ways to motivate them, or struggling to keep them engaged. You
Look,
said
look,
it's easy. Tell us.
the cool part about me is that I'm not like, I'm not a sales guy. I don't come in here and tell you, hey, we're gonna do it all together. I'm not that guy. I'm the operational, methodical guy that tells you exactly how to recruit, exactly how to pay, exactly how to build a management team, how to incentivize the team. So look, I could go on a freaking full pay structure class on how we incentivize technicians and sales guys and installers and management and in-house support, and how we structure the whole operation to be able to propel forward and be able to
Mhm.
drive high revenue numbers like we did at NextGen. But how do we recruit high level people? Look, I'm going to keep it as simple as possible because I don't want to confuse you guys. Whether people see it or not, building a competitive atmosphere inside your home service industry is
Mhm.
what it's going to attract these high level players, right? Listen to what
Okay.
I just said, because this is
Hmm.
super key. And this is the one thing that everybody forgets when they're building their team inside the home service, because they don't think, well, can I just hire a bunch of plumbers and put them inside houses and, make a bunch of money? That's not the, yes, you could do that. But the way you run a high level business is you build a competitive atmosphere inside the operation, right? Look, whether it's a customer service rep, whether it's a plumbing technician, an HVAC technician, a manager, a project manager, an installer for you. There's different positions inside that operation. Everybody has to be in competition for everything, right? The
Right.
way you
Right.
attract, the way you attract the high level rollers, the high level players, the $5 million sales guys, the $3 million split technicians, the $2 million CSRs that are booking constantly good calls. The way you attract is by paying them well, right? And by
Hmm.
paying them well, listen to what I'm going to say. It's not just, hey, I'm going to pay you 20 bucks an hour, come and work for me. Anybody could do that.
Hmm.
Anybody could do that. An employee has to be paid well enough to show up to your company, right? Has to be paid well enough as a base salary, whether it's hourly or salary or whatever you guys want to put. That you got to pay them well enough to show up on time. You got to
Hmm.
pay them well enough to smile when they show up. You got to pay them well enough where they, if there's rules inside the operation, they follow them, right? You got to pay them well enough to do that. But this is a caveat. The second thing that you got to do in order for them to actually perform is do a
Hmm.
performance pay plan for them. So I'm
Hmm.
going to step it back a little bit, right? An hourly, let's say a customer service rep. A customer service rep will get paid, and most of this is across the industry. Most plumbing, air conditioning, electrical companies will pay anywhere between $18 to $20 or $22 an hour for a good customer service rep to go to their job, right? The
Hmm.
way we got people to show up to NextGen with uniform, with a smile, ready to work, 15 minutes before their shift. They got their coffee ready to go and they're ready to sit down instead of showing up 10, 15 minutes after. And, you still got to go get coffee. They still got to go get something to eat. They still got to go to the bathroom. They still got to touch up their makeup. They still got to do all that. And now they wasted 45 minutes of their shift in there. The way we got them to show up was paying them more than everybody. So we were paying $25 to $30 an hour for them to show up to work and make sure they follow our rules, right? But the second thing we did is we made paid plans so simple for them in every sector of the operation, whether it was an installer, a technician, an CSR, a sales rep. Every single department had a simplified performance pay plan. Okay, write that down. Simplified performance pay plan. Where if I ask my customer service rep, hey, how do you get paid here? Within 1 minute, they can explain to you exactly how they got paid, and a 5-year-old could do the math for them. That's how we were able to acquire these high-level drivers to come into our industry and actually help us operate the business, right? Look, the one thing that most operators do wrong, they overcomplicate a pay plan or they're underpaying their staff. And then they're wondering why their staff is pissed off, why they're always calling out sick, why they don't even care about the customer, because you're underpaying them. You're underpaying them. You don't have a pathway where they can make more money, where in return, if you put a payment plan, a performance plan, in return, the company benefits and the customer benefits. All three parties win. That's how you drive high-level performance into our industry.
Ismael, this is so good. I mean, I'm so glad we got onto that topic of that because so many companies struggle with that. Now, before we go to our rapid fire questions, I want to just end with this. Talk to someone about the problem that they are facing in their company and why a product like Nuve is something that would help them. They're an HVAC contractor. They're working hard, but they're hitting this particular ceiling, and Nuve and what you offer is the answer. Talk to them about that problem, first of all, and then the solution.
Look, so back to one of the biggest mistakes we're doing as an operation as a whole in the industry, which is overspending in marketing, right? Overspending in marketing because we can't retain enough clients. We're going to these customers' house and moving on to the next one, moving on to the next one, moving on to the next one, but we forget to retain them. And most of the contractors are old school mentality. They're leaving out a pamphlet, they leave an invoice, they leave a piece of paper behind, and guess what happens? A week later, a day later, a year later, they throw it away. They never get to see them back. Look, the one thing that we got to make sure that we win as contractors is being top of mind to your consumers at all time. Giving them easy access point to communicate back to you is a key fundamental when you're trying to retain these clients, right? So why I came up with a thermostat with a provider with your own custom logo and your own custom app and your own custom icon on your home screen on the thermostat is because we're giving the consumer 3 different marketing touch points where they're always going to visualize and know who installed their air conditioning or know who serviced their air conditioning. The thermostat's going to have your logo on the wall 24/7. When they download the custom app to control that thermostat, it's going to have your logo and your logo only. And when they download that, when they go on the app store, they're not going to look for Nuve. They're not going to look for Nuve thermostats. They're going to look for NextGen Air Conditioning, Service Champions, Parker & Sons, Morris Jenkins, whatever your company name is. They're going to look for that on the App Store. They're going to download the app, and they're going to put that icon on the home screen. Now imagine the marketing and the branding behind that. And that's the problem we're trying to fix at Nuve. We're going to be able to reduce your marketing spend by increasing retention of your clients. Because look, I'll give you a perfect example. At NextGen, in my short 7 years that I was there, right? We probably serviced about 600 to 700,000 people, okay? 600 to 700,000 people. And we were spending anywhere between, at our peak, we were spending anywhere between $1.2 and $1.4 million a month between billboards, Google, LSAs, Yelp, different marketing sources, right? Because we weren't retaining enough clients. We were just going in there, replacing the system, going to the next one, going in there, repairing it, going to the next one. Instead of, if we would have focused 100% on retention, and I would have retained, let's say I would have retained half of those 600,000, I would have retained 300,000 people. Wow. Do you know how many people I need to employ to service 300,000 people? I would be spending $0 in marketing, and I would have thousands of technicians just to be able to service that amount of people. That's the problem that we're trying to solve with Nuve in the industry by bringing a self-branded product to the consumer where the consumer never knows it's Nuve, right? Ecobee puts their logo on there. Nest puts their logo on it. Honeywell puts their logo on it, right? I'll give you a fun fact. If you ask homeowner, what's the brand of your air conditioning? 90+% of homeowners will always tell you it's Honeywell. Why? Because Honeywell was the brand on the thermostat for years and years and years. And that's the
Right.
behavior we're trying to change at Nuve.
That's good. All right, Ishmael, I want to get you out on our rapid fire questions. It's questions I throw at you. You answer in 30 seconds or less. You let me know when you're ready.
Go, baby.
All right. What's the best business book or resource that you've read or looked at?
Never read a book before. I don't know if I have HEG or whatever they want to call it, but I've never read a book in my life. What I do learn from though is meeting people. So I'll meet dope operators in the industry where I'll sit down with them for an hour, 2 hours, and have conversations instead of reading a book. I'm more of a conversation, hands-on type of guy than sit down and read a book kind of guy.
I love it. Okay. What's one thing you want to be better at as a leader in the next year?
Man, I want to be more compassionate with my people. I feel like I'm always going forward 100 miles an hour, and I wish I could sometimes take a little bit of time and be like, hey man, not everybody wants it as bad as I do, and not everybody's willing to do the things that I'm willing to do to be able to get to the places where I want to be. So I want to be a
Yeah.
little bit more compassionate.
Well, then this goes with that then. What do you do to de-stress and enjoy life?
Spend time with my girls or the gym. So I have four beautiful daughters. If I'm not at Nuve, I'm with them. If I'm not with them, I'm at the gym. If I'm not at the gym, I'm at Nuve. So I have a pretty boring routine.
All right. And here's our last question. If you could go back in time, Ishmael, what's one piece of advice you would give to yourself when you first became a leader?
If I could go back to it and give myself one piece of advice, slow down, man. I feel like I've grown these companies and I've grown all these people and we've done some pretty dope. But since I'm always focused on the forward and I'm always focused on what's next, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's push as far as we can. Sometimes I forget to live in the moment. So, like this journey, Nuve that I'm doing, I'm actually taking a little bit more time. I'm pushing forward, and I'm doing what I do best, which is drive revenue. But sometimes I'll sit down right here in this conference room and I'll look at the 50 people I have behind me working, and I'll just smile at them. I'm like, man, it's so dope that people actually like working here and people like being employed by myself. So I'm definitely enjoying this moment for sure.
Uh, Ismail, thank you for being a part of our podcast, the Leading HVAC Podcast. This is definitely a new look into how this company has come about and the problems it's solving. And if you are interested in connecting with Nuve, Ismail, give them the website. I know you're a SBE partner,
Yep.
so any of our contractors, when they talk with you, there's some special things you do for us. But how can they get in touch with you?
So look, the easiest way to learn about the thermostat is nuvehome.com, Nuve home.com. That's the easiest way to learn about the thermostat. I also have a Facebook group called the Nuve Networks group, where it's just a free social media group where we're always putting content like this: how to pay people, how to provide more value for the contractors. We always have monthly mentoring classes where we bring different leaders into our Nuve Networks Facebook group, and they just go live and talk about sales training and pay plans and marketing and operational stuff. So on Facebook, it's Nuve Networks group. On the website is nuvehome.com. If my personal Instagram is Ismael Valdez CEO. If you guys want to reach me out through there. So those are all ways you guys can contact us for sure.
Ismail, thank you so much for being a guest on the episode
Of course,
today.
man.
Thank you, those of you who are watching, listening to this. Share this with someone and continue to lead well. Thank you for listening to the Leading HVAC Podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. That's sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review on this podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.